I can start now. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. My name is Patty Dominguez. I'm Vice President of Architect and Design for Cosentino North America, and it is my great pleasure to be here today and moderating this really exciting panel that we're going to be talking about today in regards to the great outdoors. It is my honor today to be sitting with three amazing people that I have the privilege of knowing and working with, and that we at Cosentino have the privilege of working with and being partners with. And so I'd like to start by introducing our panel. First and foremost, I would like to start with Margarita. Margarita Blanco is the director of ARCGIO, Arquitectónica, as some of you may know. And Margarita Blanco is the co-founder and director of ARCGIO. After reading everything about Margarita, I want to just highlight the fact that besides the fact that she and her partner are both of the directors of this amazing company, she, with many studies from London and from different places between New York and Florida, also received a PhD in landscaping architecture. Margarita, welcome, and thank you for being here today.
Thank you for inviting me.
Next up, I would like to introduce to you our dear friend, Stephane Marchand. Stephane is the principal of Urban Bonfire and head of design of Urban Bonfire. Stephane's, I've had the pleasure of traveling with Stephane and being with him in Spain. We spent some time together during, I guess, last year, before all of this, and had an opportunity to meet with our R&D department at Cosentino and really spend some quality time talking about how we could incorporate Decton and Urban Bonfire with his amazing design and engineering background. And it's been a pleasure, and it's crazy to think that this relationship has only been a year, a little bit over a year, because I feel like I know you guys forever. So welcome, Stephane, and thank you for being here.
Thank you, Patty. That trip was extremely memorable for me, so thank you so much for having me.
I think it might have been the tapas in Granada that were more memorable.
The tapas and maybe the wine. I don't know. I think we had one or two glasses one night.
The tapas and the wine, for sure.
Yeah.
And then last but certainly not least, Ryan Bloom, principal and president of Urban Bonfire. Ryan started Urban Bonfire, and I will say that every time I hear you tell your story, Ryan, and every time I hear you communicate how Urban Bonfire and the name came about, it gives me chills, because now more than ever, I think everyone that's here can relate to one thing, and that is the importance of spending time together and being with family. And the day we met, you shared your story with me. You talked about family. You guys have a family business, and I knew that it was a perfect partnership for Cosentino. I also had the pleasure of traveling with Ryan separately in Spain, where we had the opportunity to visit the factory, as well as spend some time in Madrid, and just really bonded over what I think is the most important part of a partnership, and just getting to know each other, and figuring out that these two companies could come together, and somehow in only a year and a couple of months, everything that you said you had a vision for has come true. So thank you for your partnership, for your friendship, and welcome to the panel.
Thank you. It's as Stephane said, it's a great honor, and it's just the beginning. So we're very humbled to be joining you and for this partnership.
Thank you. So now we're going to go ahead and begin. And as we start this panel, I just want to tell you that there'll be questions that might be asked at the end, and we will answer all of your questions. So please make sure that if you do have something that you write it down. Our panelists, as you heard, have a lot of knowledge and would love to answer anything that they possibly can. But I do want to just take this opportunity to speak for a second to all of you about something that I just mentioned, and that is that the time that we're living today, who would have known that we would now be figuring out the best way to communicate and to really be able to form any type of connection through a virtual conversation. And it's hard, because I'm not seeing your faces. I don't know who's watching. I don't know who's here. I can only see my beautiful panelists. But at the same time, it's important that I think we all understand that as far as we may be, we're always find a way to be together. And, that to me is a topic that's important when we talk about our homes, when we talk about how we design our homes and what we do with our homes indoors and outdoors. I don't know about you, but personally, living where I live today in Houston, Texas, we had beautiful weather during this pandemic and these few months, and being outside and seeing people just loving the outdoors, walking, grilling, and being outside, it was a beautiful thing. And as crazy and as sad and as anxious and all those emotions that we were all feeling during this time, I think that one thing we could all appreciate is the beauty of being safe at home and being able to be with our families. And that is something that these people, Brian, Stephane, Margarita, actually bring to us, is the ability to bring that beauty to our homes. So with that, I would like to just say I hope everyone is healthy and is safe, and during this very dark time that we've experienced also during this week, is able to look and just be thankful for what we have today, and hopefully continue to just be together. Because that's the beauty of what we have, is our friendships, our families, and of course our work that we all are in. So I'm going to start our questions, and I'd like for this to be as open, and there's no direct order, there's no specific questions. I just want to throw some things out at you, and then we'll take it from there. Hopefully it'll be an entertaining conversation to all of you that have been so kind to join us today. So the first thing is leading into a little bit about what I was just saying. Margarita, if you could tell us, why do you think the outdoor area is so important in the home right now?
Well, I think the outdoor area has always been important, and the outdoors, has always really been a key component of the human spirit. But I think that urban density really has brought to light the need for the outdoors. And I think as the homes have gotten smaller and tighter in these urban environments, people really feel the need to be outdoors. And that's nothing new. I mean, if you look at history, Central Park was created for that purpose. There was nowhere to really go. So that's how Central Park came about. That's how, in general, public parks came about, because people have always felt the need to be outdoors. So, I don't think it's new. I just think that people are just beginning now to realize how much more important it is. And that, I think after having spent a couple of months indoors, these things really take a different light. So, it doesn't matter how big or how small your home is, as long as you can go outdoors.
Yes, I agree. And why do you think, Ryan, I know that this is something that you always kind of touched on. So Ryan or Margarita, I'd love to hear both of your perspectives on something that, even though it's always been important and people have always loved to be outdoors, why do you think that there wasn't such a big impact, or people were not as focused on the design outdoors or spending money for that design outdoors? And why do you think that has shifted so much? Because I feel like people used to think of outdoors and just think of their barbecue grill outside, and that's it. And now more and more that has been changing. And I know that, Margarita, you spend most of your time designing this, and then at the same time you've made a lot of study on this, Ryan. So I don't know if you guys want to touch on that a little bit.
I'd be happy to. I think, Patty, you just said it best. You just described the outdoors, and as most people do, as barbecue and grill. And if you compare that to the way someone would describe their indoor kitchen, they wouldn't ever focus on a space as defined by their range or their stove or their oven. If you look at the way people use and focus on their indoor kitchen space, it really is, for the vast majority of people, it's the central gathering place of most people's homes and lives. It's where people connect with their spouses, their children, drink wine, cook, do homework. And historically in the outdoors, and certainly not trying to make this seem like a broad stroke comment, but for the most part, the outdoors has not seen that cooking and entertaining focal point as a major part of the space. And we hear it all the time when people will interchange the term outdoor kitchen with barbecue. And we're trying to steer away from the idea that an outdoor cooking and entertainment space is based on an appliance in the same way as an indoor space is not, but it's based on beauty, functionality, and really takes the user's wants, needs, how they celebrate, how they entertain, how they take quiet time, and what they love to do into greater account in the thoughtfulness in the design.
Yeah. So Margarita, how do you approach design when working on an outdoor project?
Well, the first thing that we do is that we begin with a thorough analysis of our project site. So going to what Ryan was saying, in order for you to be outdoors, you need to be comfortable. Whether you're cooking or just, spending the day outdoors, you need to be comfortable, just as if you were indoors. So in order to make people comfortable outdoors, we have to analyze a lot of aspects that usually you don't need to do for an indoor design. Like, for example, the sun, where there is sun at what times, that directly affects where you locate your pool, if your project has a pool, right? You don't want to put the pool where it never gets sun. So we have to do that. We do wind analysis. You need to somehow protect people from wind. So we have to go and do wind analysis. We have to do shade studies. We study the climate, the topography. All this data informs our design approach. It also informs what type of plant material we need to use. I mean, we can't plant sun-friendly flowers in the shade and vice versa. So, the first step is a comprehensive analysis of our site. That then informs the design, and the design has to do with the program and the client and the use. So, for example, if we're designing for a hospital, hospitals more and more are requiring outdoor areas, even for example, chemotherapy spaces. Yes. People want to look at green, and it's been now actually proven that green heals people, or, you know, nature heals people, even if you're looking at it through a window. So, you know, following our analysis, we then go and try to work on a concept for our program. We develop our program, and then we start a conversation with our clients. And eventually that develops into an actual outdoor area, whether it's huge or small, like the one that was just shown in the screen. It's a private residence, and it has these little nooks and crannies of really lush vegetation. So that's the way we approach design, and I think that goes for any type of project.
That's to me, that's amazing, because I can say that I spent some time at MD Anderson Hospital here in Houston, who is one of the biggest hospitals for cancer. In my opinion, the best one, or I think it is the best one in the world. And MD Anderson has a space that is all greenery, and the design of the outdoor space is amazing. And I spent some time there with my father, and that was the place to go. And it gave you this tranquility, this time of being able to relax and to heal. So I think it's fascinating, and I love that you guys think of those things. And then how do you shift, and what happens, and Ryan or Stephane or any of you, what happens when you're designing? I think that the perception of so many people is that you can only have a great outdoor space if you have a big home. And if you don't, then you don't even think about it, or you kind of disregard it. Does anyone have any feedback about what happens? I mean, besides the bigger homes, I mean, some people big is relative, right? Some people think they have a very small backyard, when really, then you look at people in New York that live in the condos and really have a small backyard. So it all is relevant. But what do you do, and what do you recommend for people that have smaller spaces when it comes to outdoor spaces and living?
Well, I can answer that. I think you need to design it with functionality in mind. So you have to come up with designs that serve more than just one purpose. So if that means that you're doing an outdoor cooking center, you may want to build seating into it. You may want to build planting into it. So really you want to try and hit as many things as possible within that small area. Generally speaking, that area, I mean, the smaller it is, the more sacred it is to people. So the more important it is, and the more they are willing to invest the time into making it as beautiful as possible. So I really think that the secret is to try and make something that serves more than one purpose, and also something that's flexible. You know, it can be used for different types of storage. You know, there was a time when people had small backyards and they had a little garden shed where they would keep gardening tools and things like that. That's not really part of design aesthetic anymore. So we have to start thinking about really functional storage beyond, you know, plates and glasses and things like that.
I agree totally with Stephane, and I also think that people have created the need for specific products that are out in the market today that are especially designed for tiny outdoor spaces, like, for example, a balcony, right? So today you can even go and get a bee house, and you can keep bees in your balcony. A lot of people in Paris now have beehives in their tiny little balconies. You can do green walls. You have hydroponic towers that you can grow your own, you know, vegetables in a small, tiny area. There is special furniture, like Stephane was saying, that folds up and you can just hang it in the wall. So there's solutions, and people are getting creative all the time on how to resolve these space issues, you know, but you don't need a huge space to be comfortably outside.
And if I can add to what Margarita said earlier about urbanization, and statistically, if you look at between 1950 and projected by 2050, the world's urban versus rural population will have literally inverted, where by 2050, it's predicted that 75% of the world's population are going to live in urban centers and cities. So I think it comes down less about physical space and more about the ability for incredible designers and companies to create the experiences that people are seeking without space as a major restriction, which is, I believe, the greatest opportunity ever for the design community as it relates to the outdoors. But with that also comes the greatest responsibility to be able to deliver and address the needs of the consumer. So I think she's absolutely right about that as a guiding principle.
And I love that you say that, because I think right now, I mean, I have to say, I would love to have a small vegetation area to grow some vegetables and stuff that I don't have. And I think that's something that more and more I keep hearing people wanting to do, things like that. And at the same time, have a fabulous kitchen like the ones that the urban guys design. And so when we're talking about all of this, what trends and have you seen that are actually out there in outdoor kitchens? What are the trends and factors that have made, kind of the outdoor space one of the growing aspects of new construction and renovation? What are those trends that you guys are seeing?
Well, the biggest one is architecture. Architecture has changed massively. So, 10 years ago, when you went to your backyard, you went through a little screen door and down some rickety stairs to a patch of grass, and you would maybe make your way across that patch of grass to a hammock or something like that. But now what you're seeing in architecture are these huge sliding glass walls that are basically connecting your indoor environment to your outdoor one. So the biggest trend that has affected our business was that from the inside of your home, you could see the outdoors, and it was, another room to your house. And so it became very important to have, an aesthetic furniture, aesthetic and functional furniture to occupy that space. To me, that was the biggest change, was that architectural change of glass, really.
Yeah.
I would add to that as well that I believe one of the things that has been a deterrent for outdoor space activation is that the approach to indoor kitchen design has been very much from the user in terms of space, design, functionality, usage, and appliance coming second. The historic buying experience for the outdoors has been the opposite of that. It's been, let's base things around an appliance, and we see that really changing. And that's been fundamentally one of the areas that has historically, or even until very recently, really been very male dominated. And we're seeing that really change. And now the outdoors is becoming, as much driven or more driven by female buying pattern decision for home design and style, with a lot more options to make space, as Stephane said, functional and workable, but also very beautiful. And I think that's been a huge shift just in the last 5 years.
I think there's another point that really has a big influence on this, and is the development of materials. Okay, I think in the recent years there has been all these materials that have been developed that are perfect for the outdoors and that require little maintenance, and that will look beautiful 100 years from now. And I think that has really helped create these fantastic outdoor spaces that require not as much maintenance as they used to. So I think people are more open to having these, beautiful outdoor kitchens that they don't need to maintain that much.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I think that has to be, I mean, I sat in a panel with you, Ryan, in LA last year, and we talked about, the female component of grilling and how that shifted from always being sort of the hamburgers and the men or steaks, and a woman just never really touched the grill. And kind of what you were saying, Margarita, I feel like as a woman, a lot of people always talk about their homes and upkeeping and the furniture or the spaces, the countertops, the way everything was designed. It's too much of a pain to upkeep it constantly, and I think that has shifted tremendously with some of the beautiful appliances and cabinets and other spaces that we have seen. So when you're looking for that, as far as trends, are there anything as far as appliances, surfaces that you guys have seen that have really that make people, someone that just doesn't know, that might be watching us, what is the difference? Because like Stephane, you are designing this beautiful space with Urban Bonfire that's functional. What's the difference? Why is it better for outdoors? And what are all these other appliances and surfaces out there that you guys have seen that are trends that are working in the outdoors?
Well, and I think to your point about materials, and they have come a very, very long way in the past year, as Margarita was saying. We do a lot of tests here as we develop new products, and we put things out in the snow, in the rain, and salt baths, and it never ceases to amaze me how difficult it is to work in an outdoor environment. It's just a very caustic environment. So whether you're dealing with UV or you're dealing with salt air, it's very hard. And I think that's why historically people have been very scared of it. And before we got on this call, I was talking to Margarita about her Herzog garage in Miami, and talking about draining and all of these things that are really quite complicated. So materials have come a really long way. They've allowed companies and products, or companies that develop products, to come out with designs that are more functional, more robust, and can withstand all those elements. But they've also come up with service as part of the product to teach people how to properly implement them and use them, because that's as important as the product.
Mm-hmm. Anything else you guys would add as far as products out there and surfaces, or just some of the like appliances and what they're doing that's different?
Well, I would say that, one of the main factors, I believe, to even the very discerning client designer is that people today, I believe, just don't want something else to have to maintain, to seal, to stain, to, that type of thing. It's just more maintenance is not the way to go. So this is where we're seeing, and this wasn't designed as a plug for Decton, but Patty, I've spoken with you many times. Urban Bonfire started in the retail consumer kitchen and grill business in Montreal, where the weather is extremely harsh. And the selling features when we introduced Decton, when it really first came to market, it was very simple. It had all the benefits of quartz for the indoors, but in an outdoor formulation. We didn't need to say much more than that it could handle the snow, the ice, the sun, the salt, the wine, the oil, whatever that may be. And by being proactive about that and telling people that they don't have to compromise on the integrity of color and style and the things that they don't have to compromise on indoors, that to me is a massive benefit that people really are looking for. And in a way that differs from indoor design, I believe that people are willing to make certain design concessions in the spirit of lower maintenance, longevity, less work to do, things of that nature. And that's proving to be the case.
Yeah. So Margarita, when you are designing the spaces, and do you guys have a vision when it comes to all of the different, products that that people feel like they want, and that you lead them towards different products when it comes to spaces outside? How do you specifically go and decide what products you should be using?
Well, we always try to specify a high quality product to begin with, and one that requires little maintenance. Okay. Most of the spaces that we design for in the outdoors are community spaces, because our projects are either condominiums, so these outdoor spaces are shared, or for example, the one that is just showing in the screen is the new student housing for the University of Miami. So they're communal outdoor spaces, let's put it that way. So we try to look for products that require very little maintenance, but that are aesthetically really beautiful. I think that's where Dekton probably has an advantage, and because it's like if it was marble basically, but it has better performance even because it doesn't get stained. So when you're dealing with these community spaces, you need to have these products that are really very low maintenance, but very, high performance. And not always the client wants to invest in these products, but, at the end of the day, I think it pays off to spend a little bit, whatever it is, for the longevity of the product, as well as for the aesthetics.
Yeah. Thank you. So you guys, thank you. You were all mentioning a little bit about Dekton. And Ryan, how do you think that designers can leverage the color and fabrication options of Dekton to make their greatest mark on outdoor projects?
Well, I think that the design community embracing the realm of possibility with Dekton beyond just the, at face value, people think countertop, of course. But, some of the things that we have pushed very hard to allow or try to introduce to the design community is, again, always coming back to the principle of indoor kitchen design. So, historically, you don't see a backsplash, as an example, outdoors. Dekton is a beautiful backsplash material that helps to frame an outdoor kitchen or space the same way as you would indoors. Using Dekton for tables, for flooring, it really allows the design community to have tremendous versatility in terms of color, thickness, finishing, but with the, always with that ace in their hand that this is going to look as good 5 years from now as it does today. And that means the client is going to see much greater return on investment for that space. And again, going back to that lower maintenance. And again, it allows the designer to have a far greater ability to create wow factor, which for a very, very long time in the outdoors was really missing. And I think is one of the fundamental reasons why much of the design community did not embrace the outdoors. And there were obviously specialty firms like Margarita's, but the average design professional sort of stopped at the patio door because in many cases they didn't want to say, well, how can I put my mark or my signature using stone and stucco and wood? It's like tying an arm behind their back. Now with the amount of materials, colors, Dekton, finishes, handles, they've got a Crayola box to work with, and they can put their real expression and also connect the indoor and the outdoor in the way Stephane described, which I believe is fundamentally important, that we shouldn't look at indoor and outdoor as two separate conversations, two separate specialists, two separate design. It should be one big umbrella, and these are just pods because they come together in a usage and functionality way more than ever before.
Yeah. I agree. I think some of those furniture companies have done a great job with their spaces in creating furniture that's very high end and that people do spend money with. But then when it came to everything else, it always felt like that just sort of stopped right there. So I think you have a very, you're right on that one, Ryan. Margarita, do you see a change or a shift now with COVID in people starting to ask more? Do you feel like that design for outdoor is going to change the way people think? Where do you think this is going to change or happen now that we're all living through this epidemic?
I definitely think that this is going to change a lot in the way from, even from a restaurant, how restaurants are going to find that their outdoor space will probably become more important than the indoor space. I think hospitals are also seeing that having these indoor gardens and outdoor views to green and to these, operable windows and simple things like that as operable windows in a hospital, to get fresh air, will be a big new trend. And I think a big part of any new project that goes into the boards now. You were talking about MD Anderson, and we just won a competition. Well, Arquitectonica did, but we'll be doing the landscape and the gardens for it, for a new building that they're going to be building there. So, I think anything from healthcare to a single family home, we'll see that the outdoors will take a huge importance now. And obviously all the products and all the things that are out there for the outdoors will also be in demand in the months and years to come, I think.
That's fantastic. Well, of course, if you congratulations on your award, and if you need anything from cabinet space or from countertops, you know who to call.
Absolutely. We'll be calling.
So I'm going to ask you guys one more thing, and then we're going to go ahead and move forward and have our guests and the audience ask questions for the next 15 minutes. But the last thing I wanted to ask, and please feel free, any one of you, to answer is, can you describe the outdoor space, sort of that ecosystem that is being nurtured by companies right now? Like Cosentino, its network of fabricators, urban bonfire designers, builders, appliance brands, and the consumers. I don't know, Ryan, maybe if you want to take this, but if not, either one of you.
Yeah, I think I'll address. I think we're certainly seeing a major trend from, as Margarita mentioned, condo developers or multi-family units, where the outdoor space, which has typically or historically been left, while the developers and builders focused on interior appliance packages in terms of upgrades, are now seeing that outdoors as a major opportunity for A, differentiation of their project, and B, seeing on an economic level that in reality, whether you're talking about a condo, a backyard, a deck, if you look at activation of outdoor space per square foot, it is typically one of the lowest, if not the lowest space in a home or a condo to activate. Typically 25 to 30 cents on the dollar compared to indoor. So there is this unbelievable opportunity for developers, builders, and designers to add remarkable value to the overall footage and usage of a tiny condo to a large home at a fraction of the cost comparatively to indoors. And I think now more than ever, and we just finished a project through one of our dealers in Vancouver, where a developer said, in addition to the luxury appliance package, we're going to put an outdoor kitchen with Wolf and Sub-Zero appliances into all 37 units of this project, because we know that the perceived value to the buyer is dramatically more than the actual price of the kitchen. And the developer, designer, architect who sees that outdoor space as not the afterthought, but as a room, and more are doing this, the economic impact for them on building costs, on the price of sales of units, and the perceived value to the consumer is disproportionate to the cost. And that is a trend that we're seeing really on the upswing right now.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Ryan. And by the way, beautiful images that you all have shared with some of your projects, Margarita, and those beautiful spaces from Urban Bonfire. So thank you for sharing those with us. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and ask some questions that we have from all of our guests. So again, thank you to all of our guests that are here and the audience. And I'm going to start with a question from Lauren in Arizona. How does the Urban Bonfire product hold up in extreme Arizona weather? With the temperature rising to 120 degrees, do the cabinets and the countertops need to be covered, or can they be uncovered? So, Stephane, Ryan, you want to answer that?
Well, one of the things about heat, and that's aside from UV, which is a whole other thing. Usually, the more massive something is, the more it will hold heat. So the more mass it has, the hotter it'll get. So you'll see that a stainless steel cabinet, for instance, will get much hotter than an aluminum one is, and that's because aluminum is about half the weight of stainless by thickness of the metal. So one of the big reasons we went with aluminum, and I think one of the big reasons why a lot of furniture companies go with aluminum, is to address this. So much cooler to the touch. And then the other thing with Arizona is UV. So anything that you're specifying in Arizona, you really want to make sure that it has UV certification, so a limited percentage of fading over time. So you'll want to look for architectural powder coating, or at the very least, super durable powder coating, and countertop products that are similar that will maintain color integrity over time in those types of environments. It's always smart with anything outdoors to cover it if and when possible. Generally, we recommend that people cover it when they lay it to bed for a few weeks at a time. There's a lot of really great cover people that can come up with custom ways of covering things without making it this big sloppy cover that goes on. So there's just tons of options out there to deal with this type of environment now.
Thank you, Stephane. I would be remiss to not say that you don't have to cover Decton, because it was part of the question. So I'll go ahead and take that. So another question: how do you approach, and Margarita, maybe you can answer this. How do you approach a small outdoor space? What do you prioritize, storage or beauty?
I think that the art of design rests in the balance between function and beauty. So I think that's how it is. It has to be a balance between function and beauty. It can't all be function and it can't all be beauty. So I think that what we were discussing before, all these products, Decton and the products Bonfire has developed, and all these products are not only functional, but they're also beautiful. And I think that you don't need to compromise one for the other. I think you just need to balance it out. And a good designer should be able to do that.
Thank you. Do you want to touch on anything more on that one, Ryan? Or are we good to move on?
I think we can move on. I think Margarita hit it right. It's all about that intersection of design and beauty, and I think that's I couldn't say it better.
Okay, another question. If you plan on reselling your home, what would you invest in for your outdoor space?
Well, I can say that if you look at the statistical return on investment in outdoors, again, it is one of the outdoor kitchen in particular, but other aspects as well, have, if not the highest, one of the highest return on investments for every dollar you spent. Some leading landscape experts actually say it has a higher impact on resale value than the dollar that is spent. So that's one aspect. The other thing that we know, and that was very important in our design in terms of keeping away from that traditional clunky stone island frame that's there for life, if you look at the movement of people, particularly in the US, where statistically, if you're under 40 in the US today, you'll live in 3.5 homes in your lifetime. Stephane and our team really followed European kitchen design, which is something that can be taken with you. Just like furniture, and that ability to take it with you, move, add to it because it's modular, that was really one of the core principles. So there is no question that because really activated outdoor space is still, even in very wealthy and beautifully designed homes, is still very much in the minority and is just really getting started as a trend. When you see a home that has an activated outdoor space, the economics make total sense on resale.
Yeah. And then Margarita, how would you approach it on the more just in broad of outdoor space if you are to invest in something for your home and you are thinking about reselling it? What do you think is the most important of what you would invest in?
I agree with Ryan. I think an outdoor kitchen and an outdoor living room have a very high regard in terms of resale value. And then you can add to that. I mean, you can have anything from a potting green, a playground. You can have every single home, room of your home in the outdoors, right? So it depends on the size of your outdoor space and your specific requirements. But I totally agree that an outdoor kitchen and an outdoor living room are, definitely something that people always regard in their options when they're looking out for a new home.
Yeah.
In terms of condominiums, which we do a lot, outdoor kitchens, of course, are always included. And then on top of that, we have outdoor bars, outdoor, the swimming pools, potting greens, children's playgrounds. I mean, there's a whole, bunch of programmatic elements that you can include in the outdoors. It can go on forever. It's exactly like a home, right? You can have every single room of your house, you can have it outdoors, even if it's a bedroom.
That would be nice. I think the next panel, we're all doing it outside. I wanted to do it outside today, but I couldn't because it's like pouring down rain in Houston. But I think next time we all need to do our panel outside. Okay, we have another question, and this one is for you, Margarita. We have a client who is opening a new restaurant. With the changes needed to COVID, we are left trying to maximize the space, but still leaving 6 feet in distance from one table to the next. How are you approaching this new need?
Well, we have a whole menu of ideas for all these new COVID regulations, from having like individual greenhouses where you can actually have your meal in your own little greenhouse, to marking off the actual distances within the hardscape of the floor so that people, know exactly where their little area is and stick to that. I guess it's these types of situations that really bring out the creativity in people. So we haven't yet had to design a project with these requirements, but we know that it's coming soon, and we're studying different options for the ones that we are currently have on our boards. but we think there's a lot of solutions and very pleasing and aesthetic and practical. They don't have to be ugly and they don't have to be impractical, and I think we'll all learn to live with them and be happy with them.
Thank you. There's a question from Anna Blanchard asking, could you comment on the use of sound absorbing materials for functional rooftop spaces in the city?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, there's all sorts of sound absorbing materials, and soil is one of them. So, I think it depends what sort of space you're designing, but if it's a green roof, dense areas of soil absorb a lot of sound. Okay, so also water fountains, even if it's just a drizzle, absorb a lot of sound. There's, every day, like I was saying, there's all sorts of new materials that are being developed every day, and it's just, using your creativity to see how you can apply it to your individual project and program, whether it's indoors or outdoors. But yeah, I think it's just a matter of looking at the project and finding the solution, really.
Okay, thank you. What are the trends for outdoor spaces for office buildings? We're working on a multi-use building and want to ensure we are implementing innovative ideas.
Well, one of the biggest trends is an outdoor kitchen, precisely. Outdoor kitchens, outdoor living rooms, outdoor exercise rooms. We're actually doing an office building right now that has all the things that used to be indoors are not only indoors, but are also have their outdoor counterpart.
Nice.
So outdoor dining areas, a lot of outdoor dining areas, especially right now after this situation. We're increasing all the outdoor areas in office buildings that we have on the boards right now. So I would say that those are like really the primary spaces that people are looking for.
I completely agree. We're seeing a major increase in requests from companies who are saying, I don't have to rent my rooftop. It's free. Mm-hmm. I don't have to rent this little area of even if the parking lot, and we can create a beautiful fencing and make it activated with greenery and a pergola and heaters. I don't have to pay for that space, but I can make it into an incredible opportunity for my employees to connect, to have meetings. It's way less expensive to have a caterer come in and cook for my staff than it is to take them out to a restaurant, and it keeps them close by. So this is, again, not a result of COVID, but I think that it has accelerated companies' understanding of how to create safe space with distancing in areas where they don't have to spend an extra dollar in rent or in building cost, and they get a completely new and active space that is setting them apart from other employers and other offices. So I completely agree with Margarita.
And I think it's amazing how the influence of that is fabulous, because as we all know, working in an office, when you have the opportunity to walk out and just have your lunch outside, or even hold a meeting outside and move yourself from that indoor space is awesome. And I think that people more and more are going to be doing that. Okay. And another question. This might be the last question. So when you design outdoor space, how do you solve the smoking issue from your neighbor?
You wear a mask. That's the only solution.
Sorry, are we talking about cigarettes or ribs?
I don't know, but I'm assuming.
Or both.
It's
or both.
Yeah, I guess wearing a mask, and now everybody has them, so that'll work. But I do have a question for you, Margarita. Is the wind any kind of, when you're factoring in the
Yes.
wind, would that be something?
We do, that's why we do wind studies when we're designing. We do the sun, the wind, the shade, all of these studies, because the wind is a factor. And so where you locate your tables, where you locate your outdoor kitchen, obviously has, an influence depending on the result and all the data we collect. So that's going back to the first question. That's why we always start with a complete analysis of the site before we start designing any one of our projects, because we want to be absolutely try to address as much as we can ahead of time based on the data that we have collected.
Okay, thank you. All right, and now this is our very last question. Urban Bonfire, it's for you. Are traditional grills still the most common cooktop for outdoor kitchens, or are ovens and other options starting to gain popularity?
It's a great question. I think that still in most cases you have a gas grill as one of the major components or appliances of a kitchen. But I would add to that more and more progressive companies like Lynx and Heston and DCS and Wolf and Kalamazoo are creating supporting product that allow for much greater use. And again, there's been this historic, my grill is for hot dogs and hamburgers and steaks, but why people wouldn't they do breakfast outside? I do for my kids on the weekend, or lunches, or make a beautiful bowl of pasta, for example. So these companies have created a whole suite of appliances. And as people start to think about that outdoor cooking area less as a grill or a barbecue, which is that historic term, and think of it more as an activated space for entertaining, for cooking with your families, for enjoying time together, in the same way as we think about indoor, it makes it much easier to do that when we think about the term outdoor kitchen as a little bit more broad than it's just a barbecue. And we're seeing that happen every day.
Thank you, Ryan. Okay, so we're getting close to the end of our panel, and at this time, I would just like to have an opportunity for any final remarks that perhaps each one of you might have for our audience. So, Stephane, why don't we start with you, and then we can end with Margarita.
Well, I think I would say that right now, everybody is slowed down. Our lives have slowed down quite a bit. And when our homes used to be sort of a shell that we would have coffee and then dinner in, and the rest of our lives was on the go, we're spending a little bit more time at home, and our homes are becoming a little bit more sacred. So I would just urge people to keep that feeling, because things will return to normal. But I think treating our homes as a sacred place for family and friends is something that we should all hang on to.
Thank you, Stephane. Ryan?
I would like to, I can't say it better than Stephane, so I would really like to just take a moment, and Patty, as I said earlier, and I've said this many times, the support, the friendship, the partnership with you and your team and all of your teams across North America has made a huge difference in Urban Bonfire, our story, how we've grown, making our products better, making our services better. So again, I said this at C100, and I'll say it again. I know we're a micro blip on your story, and you're a huge boulder in ours, and I can't thank you enough for everything you've done to help that story that I told you about my childhood and where Urban Bonfire came from, to help us share that story with more and more people. So I'd like to leave with a huge thank you to you and the entire ecosystem of Cosentino.
Thank you, Ryan. Margarita?
Well, I agree with my colleagues in the panel, but I also think that the great outdoors is now in. It's finally in. And our challenge is really to rethink the outdoors with innovative solutions that are sensitive to the environment, but also enhance the human spirit. And I think that your products, both Bonfire and Cosentino's products, will help bring that to fruition. So thank you for inviting me. And I hope to see you all soon in Montreal, I hope.
Yes. With pleasure.
Well, thank you, Margarita, and thank you to all three of you. I also want to say that working with your companies has been a real honor for me and for Cosentino. I invite all of you in our audience to please visit Urban Bonfire, visit Arquitectonica, and take a look at some of the amazing things that they do. And of course, visit us at Cosentino. If there's anything that we can do for you, we are all here for you. And hopefully very soon we'll be around to give you a big hug and a kiss, even if it's with a mask. But everyone stay safe. And thank you very much for being part of this panel of the great outdoors. Have a wonderful afternoon.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.